I overheard my partner's family joking about keeping me around for financial help. I broke up with her, and now they want to reconcile. I'm 32, male, and let's just say I haven't had much luck in the family department. Grew up with a single mom who did her best. But between 2 jobs and barely enough money to keep the lights on, warmth wasn't exactly something we had in abundance. Don't get me wrong, I respect the hell out of her for all she did. But let's just say my childhood wasn't filled with big family gatherings, cozy dinners, or anything remotely resembling the family man picture you see on Christmas cards. So, when I met my girlfriend 3 years ago and got a glimpse of her family, it felt like I'd stumbled into a life I'd always wanted. Her family was loud, close-knit, and always around, celebrating something, laughing, even arguing, but in a way that felt full and vibrant. They were exactly the kind of family I'd daydreamed about having. I felt like I'd finally found something stable, something lasting. Her parents welcomed me in with open arms. Her siblings always treated me like one of them, and I felt home. Over time, I became more than just a boyfriend to them. I became the family guy, the one they could count on. I'd spend weekends at their house, join in on Sunday lunches, and got roped into birthdays, graduations, everything. And for a guy who grew up on his own, that attention, that sense of belonging, it meant everything. But the more time I spent with them, the more I started to realize my place wasn't just emotional. It was financial. I'd worked hard to build my own tech consulting business, and finally, I was making a comfortable living. I wasn't rich by any billionaire standard, but I could afford things I never thought possible. And I didn't mind sharing. I didn't even think about it. If they needed something, a bit of help with groceries, covering dinner, fixing things around the house, I didn't hesitate. I was happy to help. To me, it was what family did. I didn't even notice the subtle shift at first, the way their small asks grew, like vines wrapping tighter and tighter around the support I was so willing to offer. The first time it really crossed a line was during a Sunday lunch about a year into our relationship. We were all sitting around, laughing over some story her dad was telling about a fishing trip gone wrong, when my girlfriend leaned over and whispered in my ear, "Hey babe, do you think you could help my dad out with some bills? Things are just tight right now." I remember pausing, a bit taken aback, but then reasoning it away. "Sure," I said. "Just let me know how much." It felt weird, yes, but I trusted her and I was in love, so I paid it, not thinking much of it. But then it kept happening. Her mom needed help with a car repair. Her brother needed money for his insurance. They were all in between something, work, gigs, projects, you name it. And every time there was a new one-time ask. And each time I told myself I was just doing my part. Months later, the requests weren't even couched as one-time anymore. They became family emergencies, then family expectations. The line between me being a supportive partner and a financial crutch blurred, but I didn't see it. Or maybe I didn't want to see it. I was caught up in this fantasy of being part of their family, convincing myself that love meant helping those you care about, and that they cared about me too. One Sunday afternoon, though, that illusion shattered. We were all sitting on their back porch, the usual spread of drinks and chips around us. Her brother and dad were talking about some remodeling they wanted to do, and I just tuned out, staring at the view, when I heard her dad say, "Well, with him around, we'll get it done sooner or later." I glanced over, thinking he meant someone else, but then her mom chimed in saying, "We just need to keep him close. He'll pay for it. He always does. That boy's just happy to be here." There was laughter, like some private joke they were sharing. I felt like the air had been sucked out of my lungs. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was like I'd been slapped in the face with the reality I'd been ignoring for so long. To them, I wasn't family, I was an ATM. I sat there, staring at my drink, willing myself not to react. I felt numb, disgusted. They weren't just joking around. This was casual, like this was something they'd talked about a dozen times. I could feel the bile rising, but I kept a straight face. I didn't want to tip them off that I'd heard. Not yet. I needed time to think, to understand what the hell was really going on. That night, lying next to my girlfriend, I could barely breathe. I felt like I didn't know who I was lying next to, who I'd been sharing my life with. The warmth I'd felt, the love, the trust, I didn't know if any of it was real anymore. But I couldn't just walk away without confronting her. The next day, I waited until we were alone, then looked her dead in the eye and asked, "Be honest with me. Do you and your family actually care about me, or is this about what I can give?" She looked startled, a little taken aback, and tried to laugh it off. "What? Babe, where is this coming from?" But I pressed, explaining that I'd overheard her parents' conversation. Her face went pale, but she quickly tried to cover it. "Oh, you heard that? My parents just joke around. They don't mean anything by it." "Jokes," I repeated, unable to keep the bitterness out of my voice. "Jokes are funny. There was nothing funny about what I heard. Do you see me as part of your family, or just someone to pick up the tab?" She got defensive, her tone shifting. "You're overreacting. My family loves you. Yes, maybe we ask for help, but that's only because you're in a position to give it. You said yourself you love helping people. What's the difference?" "The difference," I said, my voice shaking, "is that helping someone isn't the same as being used." The argument spiraled. She went from dismissive to outright accusing me, saying I was selfish, that I was obsessed with my money, that I didn't understand what family really meant. "If you loved me, you'd be okay with supporting the people I love," she threw at me. "If you're serious about us, then you're serious about my family too." "Serious about your family?" I echoed, the reality hitting me like a weight. "Your family sees me as a golden goose, not a person. Is that the kind of love you're talking about?" She stormed out, heading to her parents' place, and I just sat there, feeling gutted. It was like my entire world had been turned upside down. I didn't know what was real, what had been an act. Had I been so desperate for a family that I'd ignored all the warning signs? That week, the call started. Her mom left a voicemail, her tone saccharine, telling me I'd misunderstood, that they just joke around, that they were sorry if anything had come off wrong. Her brother texted, acting like nothing was wrong, saying, "Hey bro, hope you're good. Don't sweat it, man. We're family, right?" But I couldn't unhear what I'd heard. I couldn't unknow the truth. I tried to reason with myself, to think maybe it was a misunderstanding, but the more I replayed every moment in my head, the more I realized the pattern. The subtle ways they'd trained me to reach into my pocket, to feel responsible for their problems, to feel like that was what it meant to be part of their family. A few days later, my girlfriend came back, wanting to talk, to patch things up. She said all the right things, tried to make me feel guilty, tried to convince me that I was walking out on love, but I was done. I'd seen what was behind the mask, and I knew that I'd never be more to them than a means to an end. She called me selfish one last time, storming out in tears, and I didn't even feel angry anymore, just empty. I'd lost not just a girlfriend, but a family, or at least the illusion of one. The idea of belonging had been a lie I'd told myself, and accepting that truth was like swallowing glass. In the weeks that followed, I felt the weight of it all. The betrayal, the loneliness, the sense that I'd been nothing but a wallet to the people I'd cared for so deeply. I confided in a few friends, and to my surprise, several of them admitted they'd noticed the pattern early on. One even said he'd heard my girlfriend's brother joking about me being the bank, but hadn't wanted to say anything for fear of hurting me. Hearing that hurt, but it also brought me clarity. I had been so focused on the idea of family, of being needed, that I'd let myself be taken advantage of. I'd ignored the red flags because I was so desperate to believe that I'd finally found a family that cared about me. That realization was brutal. It wasn't just that I'd been used. It was that I'd willingly ignored the truth to keep this picture-perfect illusion alive. After she left, there was silence. The kind that feels like it's pressing down on you. No calls, no texts, nothing. I wondered if they'd just written me off, maybe found another helper to keep things afloat. But then, about a month later, her dad reached out. Said he wanted to meet, to clear the air. I agreed more out of curiosity than anything else. I wanted to see if they'd try to convince me that everything I'd experienced was just in my head, or if they'd finally come clean. We met at a small diner off the highway, and he walked in looking serious, but oddly casual, like he hadn't just been part of a scheme to milk me dry. "Listen," he started, leaning back in his seat as if this was a business negotiation. "I know things got a bit tense, but we didn't mean for you to feel like that. We really do care about you. You're a good guy, you know that? Good for our girl. Good for the family." I stared at him, unimpressed. "Care about me?" I repeated, struggling to keep my voice steady. "Or care about what I can give?" He gave a dismissive laugh, like I was being overly dramatic. "Look, every family's got needs, and if you're serious about a future with her, those needs are going to be a part of your life too. That's what family is. Helping each other out." I felt my stomach churn. The sheer entitlement dripping from his words was mind-blowing. "Helping each other out," I said, my voice low, "isn't the same as using someone." He shrugged, not even fazed. "Call it what you want. But at the end of the day, if you're going to be part of this family, you're expected to contribute. And frankly, if money's what it takes to keep things comfortable for everyone, then what's the problem?" I almost laughed at the absurdity of it. Here he was not even trying to hide it anymore. I realized then that I'd never been a person to them, just a resource. "The problem," I said, feeling my voice tremble with barely contained anger, "is that I'm done being your wallet." He scoffed, muttering something under his breath about me not understanding family. He stood up, threw a few bucks on the table, and left without looking back, as if I was the one who'd crossed the line. That meeting was the nail in the coffin. There was no coming back from that. I knew that whatever illusion I'd clung to was dead. They didn't want me for who I was. They wanted me for what I could give. I blocked all of them after that. My ex, her parents, her brother, everyone. I deleted every message, every photo, every trace of them from my life. I felt hollow, but at least I wasn't carrying their weight anymore. The relief was gradual, but it came. In the months that followed, I threw myself into work, trying to rebuild the parts of me I'd let them chip away. I reconnected with old friends, spent more time with people who knew me for who I really was, who didn't see me as just a source of cash. Looking back, I realized just how blind I'd been. I wanted so badly to belong, to have a family, that I'd convinced myself I had won. I'd let myself be pulled into a toxic cycle of dependency disguised as love, and it took hearing the truth, plain and ugly, to snap me out of it. But I learned something from it all. Love isn't about what you can give. It's about who you are with each other when you have nothing to gain. And real family doesn't look at you and see dollar signs. They look at you and see you. So now I'm moving forward, maybe with a little more caution, a little more skepticism, but also with a lot more respect for myself. I won't be the bank for anyone ever again. And maybe someday I'll find a family that loves me for me. But until then, I'm done trying to buy my way into someone else's. That was the day I stopped letting my loneliness make my decisions. And I'll never let myself forget that.